Okay, sorry, got cut off there. So it's a continuation of what I was saying. When I plug in -2, I'm going to use the second one because this one can be equal to -2. So I get 3 for that one also. Now I have these XY charts down here. For those of you that want points from an XY chart, some of you guys are better at that, then what you can do is evaluate both equations at -2 because that's kind of your cutoff line. But I want to graph y equals 2x plus 1 where x is less than -2. So I'm going to plug in x's that are less than -2 on this one. I want to graph this one where where x is greater than -2. So numbers greater than -2 are numbers like that. So to get points, I would actually plug these in. -2 times 2 is -4 plus 1 is -3. You get -6 plus 1, so that's -5, and that keeps going down 2, as you can see in the graph. Now this one, there's really nothing to plug into. You just have y equals 3. So these are going to always equal 3. Okay, that's a special function there. But for this one, like if you're going straight off the bat from an XY chart, I'm gonna graph y equals -2x plus 1, where x is less than or equal to 1. So I'm going to try 1, 0, -1, -2. Those are all numbers less than 1, okay, or equal to 1. The second one, I'm going to graph y equals 5x minus 5, where x is greater than 1. I'm still going to evaluate that at 1, but I'm going to try 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So I just plug it into the equation, and it looks like -2 plus 1, so that's -1. Oops. Plug in 0, you get 1. Plug in -2, it looks like you get 3. Plug in negative, and you get 5. So it looks like it's increasing by 2, which you would expect as you are going to the left. This one here, plug in 5 times 1 is 5, and you get 0. Plug in 2, looks like you get 5. You plug in 3, and it looks like you're going to be off the graph. So only a few are going to fit on the graph there. So go ahead, and these are the points that you're going to graph. So 1, -1. And this one is allowed to equal 1, so I'm going to keep that a solid dot. Then 0, 1 is here. So this is going to go on forever that way. Now where x is greater than 1, I want this thing to have an open circle at 1, so make sure that's an open circle right there, and then 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, like I said, this one's going to be off the graph just by 2, so I'm going to go ahead and put that up there. All right, it's off the graph a little bit, but that's the second one. Now, you could have thought about this. This thing crosses at -5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So really this point is on the line also, but I don't want to conclude that point because that point is actually less than 1. But that's how you could have got the line. You could have started at -5, went up 5 over 1, up 5 over 1, and you would have had the graph. So looks like if I plug in -4, I get 9. If I plug in 8, I'm going to get something pretty big, 35. And if I plug in 1, I'm going to use the top equation. I can look at it here. It looks like I get -1. See, right there it is. When I plug in 1, I get -1. Okay, so this one is just an interval, and these are all going. This is going to be 6, 2, and -6. And it doesn't really make sense to use XY charts here because if you think about it, you could put the numbers, I guess, in between -4. Those are the 4 numbers that are in between that interval. Then you have -1, 0, 1, 2, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. But when you go to evaluate these things up here, when it's one of these numbers, it's always going to equal 6. And when it's one of these numbers, it's always going to equal 2. So you got to think about these equations. This is y equals 2, this is y equals 6, and this is y equals negative 2. So y is always going to equal those numbers. So it can still kind of help you, I guess, if you're looking at this at negative 4, you're at 6. All right, now, since this cannot be equal to negative 4, that should be an open circle. And it's going to go all the way to negative 1 and then include negative 1. From negative 1 to 2, I'm going to be at 2, not including negative 1. Solid dot. It's called a step function. And then I'm going to be at negative 2 from 2 to 5. Looks like that. All right, then writing the graph from, writing the function from the graph. So here we go. From 0 to 3. So how are we going to write that? From x, we're always going to use the less than symbol. To kind of scrunch our x. So this is saying that x is greater than 0 but less than 3. Sorry, greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 3. So it's in between those two, and that's what's happening between these two dots. Your x-coordinate is 0 to 3. All right, and that's the function y equals 1, 2, 3, 4. So your function is just 4. From here, it looks like we have a negative 1-to-1 slope, and I write the equation of a line with y equals mx plus b. So if I can find the slope and I can find where it crosses the y-axis, I know the equation. So it looks like it's negative 1x because it's negative 1-to-1 slope. And then this thing's going to cross, if I keep continuing it, see where it crosses the y-axis. This was at 4, 5, 6, 7. So it looks like it crosses at 7.